Back. Hi, I'm Tysis Jackson, and I am your Conscious Giver in Chief, the founder of Conscious Giving and the Conscious Giving Fund. So I am so happy to be here with someone that has, from the day I met him, he was always conscious giving. It's a way of life. You may have been introduced to Jamil Fletcher on the Conscious Givers podcast. If you haven't seen that episode, you need to go back and see it. But one of the things that I realized is that he had not been in the conscious giving guide. And I always value his perspective and the work that he does in the community. And as such, I wanted to feature Jamil Fletcher, Conscious Giver. So welcome, Jamil.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, Tysis.
And I actually lit a little candle because it's getting to the evening time and have some fresh scents, and we can relax and enjoy ourselves while we are doing this program today. So it's so funny because we connect on the idea that we are both fundraisers, and so fundraising is certainly at the heart of what we do. But I would love to kind of talk a little bit more with you about like what is happening in this current climate. What does it look like, with fundraising? And I guess, you have such a great perspective because you sit on some boards of some, smaller nonprofits. You work for a large institution. So I know that you have a good breadth of what's happening and what's out there. But, today I thought it'd be great to just be able to talk about that part, which may speak to nonprofits, but also I want to spend some time and really talk about being intentional with your conscious giving, because that is the only way that we're going to get to impact. And what's happening right now with COVID, and then also with the racial pandemic that also happened all in 2020, is that we know that there's some lessons. Like there are some lessons that we need to learn, and the fundraisers are here to
That's right.
help us do better. So tell me a little bit more about your work and what you've been seeing during the time of COVID, between your professional work but also your personal work.
Sure. So professionally, since I'm with a large institution, I don't know, should I say who
Oh,
I'm
it's
with?
fine. No, it's fine.
Oh, so I'm with the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture, and I'm a major gifts officer there. And what I've seen there, especially with our donors, they've sort of been baked in. We have a good population of people who recognize the value for the cause, the particular cause, and also recognize the importance of their role in making it happen. So we've done a really good job of that. And I just joined about a year and a half ago. It's coming up on 2 years now. But what I have seen is that our people are planning to give to us, but many of them, especially those at the higher levels, have been called to address more urgent issues on the local level. So we have donors that give six figures from around the country. They have been consciously pulled and directed towards their local causes, and we're talking about food, shelter, those sorts of things. And I've heard that message consistently throughout. It's like the message is primarily, yes, we're still involved in this cause, the arts, the museum, and everything. But right now, we're going to focus our attention on my neighborhood and the hunger shortage and what's happening with a lot of the local businesses in my area, and trying to address those local needs. Many of those individuals are key leaders in their community, whether it be through their corporate role or the fact that they have means, but they have leadership in their community, and they've been called on locally. So I've noticed that for the most part. And overall, I think people are really recognizing the role that they can play philanthropically, whether it's your church, your community-based social group or something. Everyone's being called to do something. And I think people are responding affirmatively, because, they look at the situation, they see themselves or they see friends or family, everyone's impacted at some level. and people are looking for a way that they can contribute, and some of that is financially.
Right, right. It's so interesting because one of our local theater companies has a really big sign about, what's happening with the arts community. And so it was interesting that, in one hand, we're saying like, yeah, this is like those are these urgent basic needs, but we also know that, the arts are so important culturally to us. And it's hasn't been a lot of one of the parts that people talk about, I guess it's more so with me, is with the stimulus, is the role that government is playing. Because as we know, you work for the African American Museum, but one of the biggest, one of the so much was captured culturally of the African American community during the Great Depression. Not well during not during the Great Depression, but after during that time, a part of the Great Depression, of getting out of it, was filling that space, and the hearing the actual voices of people who were slaves. And so I just, it's always this piece I feel very torn about. And I feel like everything is so disjointed. And so we're not seeing the opportunity for everyone to sort of give where their heart is, because we aren't all working together as a country. So.
And I would agree with that, but I also think that this is a unique opportunity where that may happen. I think there's more empathy that's happening throughout the country now. I think
Yeah.
people, even though we're somewhat separated based on race, class, a whole lot of things, geography, parts of the country, there's still this feeling now that we're all in the same boat. I think I've seen that, and so I think now is an opportunity for people to recognize the humanity in other people, and and a lot of it may be that a lot of this is happening during the holiday season. So it's that time where people are reevaluating, where they're looking at at goodwill towards their fellow man, that we're at the height of sort of the impact of the virus and then the economy. So I think it's an opportunity. A lot of people, I think, are looking at this thing differently now. I mean, the summer is one thing. We got through a contentious election, and then now, as we look at the administration, is a really setting a tone of healing, and I think this may resonate throughout the country. So it's an opportunity.
Yeah, and it's so funny, because when you talk about our communities and equalizing, I mean, if it wasn't for what was happening on the COVID, you wouldn't have seen the same thing that happened with the racial pandemic, which I think, as we kind of go back, even if we just go back to Trayvon Martin. So, we just go, like, we don't even have to go, like, 2012, whether it was 2012, doesn't have to go, like, we're just going to talk about recent history. Is that it's, when I see like the uprising, everything happening, this was so different. This was such a different feeling in the country, across the board, for how we came together, and how we started to ask ourselves some really tough questions.
Sure. I mean, you never know what happens. It's the Emmett Till situation of our day. I mean, but it's really causing the country to come to a reckoning of racial justice, and so it's an opportunity to educate everyone in our society about the impact that race has played in structuring this inequality based on this caste system of race.
Right.
This idea of what it is to be non-white, Black, and anything else in our society. So it's a reckoning, I think, especially as our population, as the composition of our population becomes more brown.
So in that conscious giving guide, you featured Us Helping Us, which is an organization that you also talked about in our podcast. And I don't even know, that was maybe not even a year or so ago, but I feel like there's just such a different sentiment that's happening. I've really seen how African Americans from the LGBTQ plus community have really started to raise their voices in a way that has certainly brought some issues to the forefront that haven't been before. How do you think like what's happening with our racial pandemic and COVID really helped to kind of bring some awareness and hopefully some action?
Sure, sure. Well, I mean, just to give some history, same gender loving or Black queer people have been involved in Black movements throughout our history. Bayard Rustin, Barbara Jordan, James Baldwin. There were many Black Panther members who were very active members of the Black queer community, but they were also members of the Black Panther community. Mm-hmm. Gay men and lesbians, the whole nine. So Black queer people have always sort of been at the forefront of social justice, especially around the impact of Blackness for Black people. What's happened though, many of the organizations that were started and run by Black queer people, a lot of them start out doing health and wellness, whether it be sort of the lesbian organizations that focus on the impact of breast cancer within amongst lesbian women, because no one is addressing that community. And the same thing that happened for Black gay men organizations that were really started around HIV and AIDS prevention, which no one was addressing it, so they decided to start organizations to address it themselves. But they also become stewards and leaders in other elements of Black community and Black justice as well, especially as the needs of those populations grow. So it could be homelessness, it could be substance abuse, health and wellness, other health and wellness issues, diabetes, high lung cancer issues among lesbian women, Black lesbian women, because of the smoking cessation. It's a whole lot of issues. Homelessness amongst Black LGBT youth is an issue. And so, of course, you start out doing one thing, but then as you look at the pressing and urgent needs of the community, you are forced to do other things. And I think what it also shows, what COVID demonstrated for all of us, is a chink in the safety gap for people, the safety net for our society. It's just failing. It's failing everybody on all levels, whether it's your healthcare, whether it's your job, whether or not it's your housing. It's just we're not able to sustain it. And COVID just exposed all of the dilemmas, the problems with it. And that's in all communities, including those more marginalized.
Right. Yeah, it's so interesting because while I'm grateful to live in DC and healthcare is available and was somewhat affordable, but still, now it's a little different now, which is not any bearing on our local community. But when I look at it, I just always think about that it's a challenge right now. I'm thinking about folks who are who are losing their jobs and can't return to work, and what is that safety net for them and their health. And I know everything is going up for 2021, and services are are decreasing, our copays are decreasing. So it's going to be really interesting to see how we shift and the new administration responds to it all.
Right. I mean, it's an opportunity to get it right. If nothing else, I mean, it's an opportunity to analyze what's wrong with our system. Healthcare is a prime example. It's such a hodgepodge. I mean, depending upon who you are and who you work for and what insurance plan you have, you get charged differently for different services. It's just not manageable. It's not sustainable, and it's got to be a nightmare for healthcare providers. I think they're looking at the dilemma of not being funded for, or not receiving payment for all the services that they're going to provide for all these people who are unemployed, but yet they have COVID, and they have COVID at an urgent stage, so they have to address it. But who's going to pay for this in the end? And so many of the whole cycle's got to be restructured. It's got to be restructured.
Yeah, it's all really interesting. I'm not gonna go down that tunnel that tunnel hole. I'll just stay away from that. So you have been fundraising for years and different organizations and different causes, and also definitely professional. But then I know that you have personally, with your board, with different boards you have been a part of. When I think about conscious giving, and conscious giving is giving with intent for impact, I think about how, my goal, when I first started fundraising, I realized there wasn't a difference between someone who gave $1 million and $100. It could, though, both of those people may be very intentional in they may be very intentional about what they're giving, or they may have equal chance of, you know what I mean? Because a lot of times people think, oh, this person gave to this program, they're very intentional. But I was like, no, it isn't always that. Not saying we have magical powers as fundraisers, but it is, it's very, there's a difference. And actually I told a story earlier, which I realized didn't get recorded, but there's a difference between like where we're talking about intentionality. I think people forget that. So if you indulge me for a second, I'll tell a little bit of the story. But I've been trying to, work out, and during this COVID, which has been very difficult. And I know you are like, Jamil is faithful.
Got to work out.
He's just like, oh, my doctor said I need to do this. He's like, do.
But keeps me sane.
When you switched up your iced tea, I knew, I was like, oh, he's serious, because iced tea is your thing. So when you were like, I can't do like my Southern style iced tea, I was like, oh, he is really he's about that life now.
Thank goodness for sweeteners.
Right. So I just got a bike, and I was telling a friend the story, and she's like, oh, this is like such a relatable story. And I was like, I never really thought about it. I was like, it's very she's like, it's very much how you talk about like being intentional with giving. And I was like, ooh. And so essentially when I received the bike, I knew that it's a case of I could fall off. Like money, like, how sometimes people say, I spent all this money for this trainer, I'm going. No, not me. Those are not motivations for me. Like, oh, I spent money on something. I'm like, oh, well, like it does not motivate me. And so I was like, I have to like sort of find the way that motivates me. And so I said, I need to change my behavior. So I just made a pledge that no matter how long it was, like at least a minimum of 10 minutes, I was going to get on my bike like every day for like 60 days or whatever. No, actually, I think it was, forget how long it takes to change your behavior, but I did it for like 60 days. And I even hurt my thumb. My thumb is it's been almost 2 months now. I can barely cross it. It's still swollen. My knee is swollen still from this fall. And I was still on my bike going. I was like, I'm doing it every day. And it was like no results, right? And did my behavior change? Not like I thought it would have. So when I finally got to the 60 days, I was like, oh, I'll do, I take a few days off and I'll get back on. And now one of the things I did is that I started looking at the data from my Fitbit, and I saw that I maybe didn't lose weight because I get on the spin and I kind of lose my mind, right? And I like to go, 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 go. And I don't pay attention. So I was never in the fat burning zone. Like maybe of a workout, I was in fat burning zone like for a couple of minutes. Literally changed the whole way. Like my heart rate, like watching my heart rate. Oh, I'm too high. Let me just pace it in a different way. And I really learned so much. So in the last like 3 weeks, I've changed my whole strategy, and I feel different. And it's been 3 weeks, so it's not like this wild amount of results, but like I've seen my resting heart rate dropped the much faster decline. I am having like these amazing workouts that are really challenging myself because I decided to be intentional about the way I was working out. I thought I was doing it by saying I'm just going to do it every day to change behavior, but it was really like pulling together the data. And I feel like that is really the point of about conscious giving and thinking about being intentional with your giving is, like, and assessing like, what are you passionate about? What are the needs? And really starting to piece together where your heart is. Sometimes you have to do heart work, like, right? Like, do you have compassion for others? COVID is really challenging my compassion when I see people like traveling all the time, going to parties, eating inside restaurants, and just, hanging out. Like, I'm like, but it made me think about like intentional. So, through your experience of being a fundraiser, what are some of the things that you have seen from donors that you have found to be the most intentional in the giving? Like, what are the things that they say? How do they approach their giving?
Right. It's rare. I mean, it varies. You never know what really moves people when they're giving, but much of it comes through their life experience. It could be something based on their youth, or whether or not, like, if they support a certain school or something, it's because they attended that school or someone from that school may have helped them in their life, or they empathize with people that are receiving the services because they went through something similar. You never know. And as a fundraiser, you look for those connections. You kind of try to peel that barrier from people to see what motivates them and what, something that they can connect. So it really varies, and what I've seen now from donors is that they're very, they're very sympathetic about what people are going through.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone tells me they're giving something to people, even if their businesses may have trailed off, their income may not be doing as well. They're still empathetic about helping other people. And so I think people are looking for opportunities to help. They're looking for opportunities to help.
Yeah. I think that people miss that. They miss that there's so many people out there that they just don't know, and they want to be able to be supportive. And that's the part of it. So, speaking of that and what people know and don't know, I really want to take some time to talk about Us Helping Us. And they are featured in the Conscious Giving Guide. And so this year, I heard a lot of feedback from the previous year. Like, sometimes it's hard, especially in smaller organizations. You have to get to their website, find how to give, and it's not always as slick and sophisticated as other organizations or organizations we might be used to giving to. There's one St. Jude, right?
That's right. That's right.
We don't
And
all
once
have
they get you,
billion
once they get you, you're theirs. They
yeah,
got you.
we all don't have $1 billion in marketing to
That's right.
do.
They're not going to let go of you. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me a little bit about so I guess I was chafing, but so this year I what I did is I found a way for, as a community, the conscious givers can give. So we'll be making gifts through Grapevine, and which is like giving circles, and then we will evenly divide up the gifts amongst the 8 organizations. So tell me a little bit about Us Helping Us and about the organization, because part of it is I want people to hear and think about their own conscious giving and to learn from you all who are featured in the Giving Guide, but then also the nonprofits who you are featuring too, so that they can learn about new organizations.
Sure. Well, Us Helping Us is a community-based organization started in Washington, D.C. in 1985. And it was really started as a support group for individuals, started for Black gay men who had created a support group to support other Black gay men who were living with HIV or AIDS, because there was no safety net. There was a void in services, so a group of people came together to address the needs in the community, in their own community themselves. and it's evolved over the years. Started in 1985 to now to roughly we are really one of the pioneering organizations of its kind, community-based organizations that was designed to address the spread and the impact of HIV within this marginalized niche intersectional community of Black gay men. But it's also expanded. So it's really become one of the leading organizations, both locally and nationally, in how we address HIV and AIDS throughout the country, especially within Black circles. And so it really sparked a surge of industry, of organizations around, similar organizations around the country, like Gay Men of African Descent in New York, like In the Meantime Men in LA, like Abounding Prosperity in Dallas, like LGBT Detroit in Detroit. So it's a number of organizations to address that need. But on top of that, once again, once people come in, you're designed to address a specific need, one need, but then you notice all these other correlating needs of this community. It's a health and wellness issue. It's a unemployment issue. It's a substance abuse issue. I mean, it could be anything. But so now the organization is expanded to try and address those issues. So it's somewhat of a community center or community reference, primarily focusing on this niche community, but it's expanding. It's expanding. So we need help. We're small, but we've been able to sustain. It's heavily funded and supported through government grants for around health and wellness, specifically around HIV and AIDS through CDC and government funding, and then also pharmaceutical funding as well. But then also we get money for other causes. And like I said, we've got the educational elements, we've got the job placement, the housing. Transitional housing is just a major issue around Black LGBT young people and youth.
Right.
It's just a major issue. And so it's filling that safety net within that marginalized community. So
yeah. It's thank you for sharing that. I think that oftentimes there's so many pieces that get caught into like the politics, right? So for a long time it was all about marriage and other things, and not that it's not saying that it's not important, but one thing I've always respected about us helping us, or and similar organizations, the African American community ones, is really what it's really about, your holistic health, like as you and who you are. And I think that that's the best thing that we can offer is, offer to so many people in this world, and particularly our youth, is to help them to feel like, whole and happy. Like it's like the little thing. It's just like let's help, all it's when I see that, particularly right now with COVID, and particularly with adolescents and what's happening with their mental health. It was already bad. It was already enough. It wasn't enough services and providers, and it's skyrocketing right now. And when I think about those who were struggling before, I can't imagine what it's like for organizations that are trying to fulfill those needs.
Right. Well, what's interesting is that, and even within intersectional organizations like ours, so we are, we're like Us Helping Us is really designed and focused primarily on addressing the needs and services of Black gay men, but we're a Black organization first and foremost. And so the same issues that any other demographic that is Black are significantly impacted with are the issues that we face. It's the same stuff. It's, mental health, income inequality, racism. It's the same thing.
Housing.
Right, there's housing. So anything, if you're being intersectional, but being Black is such a dominant factor in the life of Black people in this country, that no matter what else you are, you're primarily that first.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because when you said, I was actually going to swing back to that. I mean, if I was going to give the conscious giving fund is about creating more conscious givers. So that's the beauty of it all, is it's not about one specific topic or what you want to give to. I'm not pointing you in any direction, right? Because I just want you to be intentional in your giving so that we can create more impact. But one of the things that I am creating under the fund is a new day, which I sort of launched, and it's still the same idea. It's just, you always have to kind of make sure that you're building things in the right infrastructure and foundation. And a new day is to support BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color led nonprofits. And so just what you described with us helping us is that a disproportionate number of Black, brown led nonprofits receive government funding.
Sure.
Like that, bottom line. And one of the things I'm really concerned about as we continue to see cuts, and I have, we know this, like DC in terms of economy is really relatively healthy. We were doing amazing before COVID. And while, COVID, I mean, it's definitely impacting us, but we're not doing as bad as some other places. So I'm really concerned about the nonprofits who are lending on their localities, depending on their localities and state support, because it's not going to be there.
Sure.
It's not going to be there. It's going to be a really rough year. And there's been some really great work happening with Black-led fund. Meyer Foundation announced $20 million in DC, a fund that are Black-led. So much is coming out of the racial pandemic. It's wonderful. But I still think about, as you describe us helping us, like, those organizations that are Black-led are going to experience some really serious challenges, and we have to diversify the funding.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why it's important for us, to support our organizations, to keep them strong.
Right.
Because like you said, we're overly dependent upon sources outside of our community, i.e. government, corporate. And when we fall out of favor with those, then we're not able to remain strong. Mm-hmm. And we go by it. I mean, a lot of us are overly supported by one or two funders,
right?
A lot of Black organizations, and once those folks go, then that creates havoc amongst the organization. We can't continue the services, and that's one of the issues for not having a diversified funding stream for our organizations. That's one of the main.
And oftentimes when it's an individual, people's like, oh, that's like their organization. I don't want to give there because that really rich person gives to that. But if they die or pass away, or or their income isn't, instead of making $100 million a year, now they're only making $10 million. Well, your gift might look a little different, just to be honest. Right. But I say that to say that it's really important to diversify, and then also to be able to share in the message in your work as collective, like, not one group or one person owns a specific topic. Right. Us taking care of our youth and their mental health is all of our responsibility.
That's right. And that really stresses the importance of everyone giving. So as opposed to just being dependent upon a few individuals to give large amounts, it's more significant if more people give smaller amounts. And so your $25, $50, $100 is just as important as the 6-7 figure gifts, especially if the masses. It's all about significant mass participation. If more people give, even if they give small gifts, that really kind of strengthens the support base.
Okay, so I'm still in that, because this is a great segue to wrap up, because it's Giving Tuesday, and we have all month long to support organizations that are featured in the Conscious Giving Guide. But I think that, Jamil said that really well, is that, whatever that you can give, this is a great opportunity to do it collectively as a group. I don't have a goal. When you go to the page, you will not see a goal, a monetary amount goal, because I really don't have one. Because last year, we know that we reached over 10,000 people with the giving guide. We were unable to measure this year how many, we were unable to measure last year how much money was given. But I know that it's very contrary, and Jamil will get this as being a fundraiser, say, it doesn't really matter, because we're long game people. We're in it for the long game.
That's right.
We
That's
are
right.
not coming for you to give all this money. I'm not coming with a match this year. I'm not pressuring people. We are building our community, and you may give all the time to certain organizations, which is great. You're already there. You're intentional. You're making an impact. Well, this is the one opportunity for you to give as a collective group. People, a collective group who value the intention of giving and being intentional, and in giving to make an impact. And I believe that even if it's today or tomorrow, or or in year 2025, when we're doing the giving guide, there will be this huge impact monetarily that it will make. But most important to me is that today, right now, with this giving guide, whatever you can give it, because I think it's important. But I really want you to join the community, to learn how to give intentionally, and sort of relish in this experience as giving as a community. Jamil, thank you so much. You're always so great.
Thank you. No, you're always so great.
No, you're great. You're always as great as either you being in brown or gray.
That's right. That's right. Usually gray. Usually gray.
Usually gray. I was just like, you're trying to just match the background. That's why you got the brown.
That was not intentional.
You're like, I'm brown. This is brown. My background's brown. But no, I love you. I'm thankful. I'm grateful for you in my life. You have been you're always amazing. Every space that you're in, with your kindness. I'm so glad that you've been safe during COVID. This has been such a challenging time for all of us. And remember to visit. Oh, let me stop. Where can people find you on the internet?
On social media?
Yes.
Swerve Magazine, SWERV Magazine. I go by Jamil Fletcher. That's my name. I'm on Facebook. Swerve Magazine is on Instagram and Facebook. And then comes the museum, National Museum of African American History and Culture at the Smithsonian. Please check us out. We have an active Facebook, Instagram, social media pages as well. And us helping us, please check out our website. This is December 1st, so this is World AIDS Day. So of course, the world is really coming together to recognize this issue. And we are actually hosting an event coming up on, I think, 3rd it is. Our annual event where we honor people. We're doing it virtually this year as well. So please check out our website. It's at uhupil.org. So
excellent. Thank you so much. And you can find the Conscious Giving Guide at consciousgivingfund.org, consciousgivingfund.org, and you can read all about Jamil in the guide, as well as get information about us helping us. You can also follow us on social media. We are Co-Giving Fund at Instagram and Twitter. And we also have a Facebook page. So again, thank you so much, Jamil. You guys, we are in the full marathon. We are getting there. So thank you for joining me. We have some amazing conscious givers on deck, and I will see you soon.
all right. Thanks. Thanks, Tyson.